Hello, Peter Greenlaw here. I'm the founder of the New Health Conversation movement, which I think we sorely need. It's a registered trademark U.S. Patent Office. Our job or our goal at the New Health Conversation is to make you aware of the things you probably won't see in the mainstream press. And today I want to talk about an enormous pandemic, not to scare you to death, but to scare you to life. You may want to do something after you watch this, okay? So Dr. Robert Lustig, he's been at St. Louis Children's Hospital, is a clinical fellowship at the University of California, San Francisco. He's one of the leading authorities, probably in the world, on the effects of metabolic syndrome, more importantly, insulin resistance. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. These are the real numbers. They're now saying that 45% of the people in the United States have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Let's go back to 1975. No one had non-alcoholic fatty liver disease unless they were an alcoholic. So now we've got 45% of the people. Now notice, I didn't say obese people, but this should also concern you. 25% of our children are estimated to have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And it's not something that's like going to kill you in 5 days, but over time it can. So it's something you may want to look into the next time you go to a doctor or physical. Maybe you want to get checked for that because it's horrendous. So I want to just kind of explain it to you. I'm going to summarize a lecture that he did just to bring you up to speed on what's going on. So you've all heard, I know, of insulin or insulin resistance now, which they now say 1 in 3 adults are insulin resistant in this country, okay? 80% of America's overweight, 50% of those people are obese. Something's terribly wrong. So anyway, insulin is called the diabetes hormone, but in reality, it's actually a storage hormone. It takes glucose and what are called triglycerides, fats, that get stuffed into the fat cells for a rainy day. In other words, they're supposed to be there as an emergency to use. They shouldn't be circulating around in your blood unless you're using them in an emergency. It takes the, so what happens is that the body stuffs the insulin and the triglycerides into the cells. And this is done because circulating triglycerides are taken out of the body by VLDL particles that carry triglycerides to fat tissue on the surface of the cell. There are lipoprotein lipase particles which get triglycerides out of the blood. Okay, I know that's all gobbledygook. What it means is that the body naturally will take triglycerides and glucose into the cell. That's a normal process, okay? Normally, when you eat, the beta cells in your pancreas release insulin, and it should put glucose into storage. So the problem is when glucose is shoving glucose and triglycerides into the cells, it's not a good day. So insulin goes up. In order for the rest of our cells, especially the liver, that's what insulin resistance is. In other words, the cells can't take any more. So then more insulin is poured in to literally force them into the cells. That shouldn't be happening. And the other thing that's happening is it's really impacting our mitochondria. We have what's called mitochondria dysfunction. Let me read to you what mitochondria is and what it does. Mitochondria are what generate most of the chemical energy needed to power the cell's biochemical reactions. Chemical energy produced by mitochondria is stored in a small molecule called adenosine triphosphate, ATP. What is the main function of mitochondria? Known as the powerhouse of the cell, mitochondria produces the energy necessary for the cell's survival and functioning. Through a series of chemical reactions, mitochondria break down glucose into energy molecules known as ATP, which is used to fuel. See, different tissues have different things going on, but insulin in particular, insulin resistance is caused by fat in the liver. Research found that the primary drive or insulin resistance is liver fat, believe it or not. Insulin resistance is caused by liver fat. I thought the pancreas, which is the only way you make insulin in the body, was it. So now, this is the biggest pan. Why does the liver store fat? What is it? Why is it not burning the energy from glucose? Why are the mitochondria in dysfunction? If mitochondria were working, you would not store fat in the liver. Your liver would remain insulin sensitive and the pancreas would not have to make so much insulin. If liver works properly, it would not be converting sugar to fat. This is the cause of mitochondria dysfunction. The number one thing causing this is sugar, specifically the fructose molecule, which is the sweet molecule and also is what's addicts us to sugar. In addition, obesogens, chemicals in our world from water, air, food, herbicides, pesticides, they also attack the mitochondria. In peer-reviewed studies, glucose and insulin went down 24% in a recent peer-reviewed study. That's what I want to talk to you about today. In other words, there's great hope, okay? So this was a series, actually 3 peer-reviewed new medical studies just in the last several months. And what they looked at was basically metabolic dysfunction. The CDC says that 9 out of 10 people in the United States are metabolically unhealthy. That might be you. They're either overweight, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, high triglycerides. And now we know that 45% of the population is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. 1 in 3 are insulin resistance. I mean, something's terribly wrong. Here's the good news. In these studies, 80% women, 20% men, no one was allowed to exercise. They lost weight 12 times faster than any diet that's ever been on the planet. They lost in a month 16 pounds on average, which took a year on any other diet. And they gained 6 to 8% lean muscle mass. Now watch this. Not only did blood sugar came down, okay, but insulin came down. I just told you that what happens when you have too much sugar, the body secretes way too much insulin, and now we're creating fat because the body doesn't know what else to do, okay? So imagine in this study, that's why it's so significant, that blood sugar came down about 6 to 8% and insulin came down 4%. That's completely the opposite. That is a real healing formula. In addition, triglycerides, the other part, the fat that circulates around that really is a major contributing factor to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, that went down by 24% in just 30 days. The reason to consider what I'm telling you is we know what the problem is. We've identified it. It's not up for debate. It's not Peter Greenlaw's opinion. And I'm going to tell you right away, I'm not the expert. But I worked with some of the greatest minds in medicine, oncology, molecular biology, genetics, and nutraceutical chemistry, who for almost 40 years were looking for the silver bullet for our health and, oh, by the way, weight loss. I would tell you right away, don't even do this to lose weight. And I would urge you, if nothing else with this, in this segment, go get yourself checked for fatty liver disease. And there is a way you can turn it around, because all 5 of those factors, weight, glucose, blood sugar, blood pressure, cholesterol, and triglycerides, all went down significantly in just 30 days. Those are the cofactors that cause non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So there's no diet that's ever been tested that does this, okay? And, really, unless you can get this under control, it's cumulative. It gets worse and worse and worse. Ultimately, you need a liver transplant. This is really something that we all should take real seriously. This is not about fitting in your skinny jeans. This is not about, I feel good in my body. And I'm not mocking people that do that. But now we've got the evidence. This is frightening. If that all turns into real liver damage, which is the forerunner of this, what are we going to do? There won't be enough hospitals, beds, doctors, nurses, drugs, period. The new health conversation is, I think, what we need to take a look at. And now we have the scientific evidence to back up everything that I'm saying. Everything. So you can do whatever you want. Go on a regular diet. By the way, on regular diets, for example, there was a big buzz about intermittent fasting. 12-month study, Annals of Internal Medicine, the most that anybody lost in a year was 10 pounds. We had people losing a pound a day, and yet they still gain lean muscle mass. But that's not the big story. The big story is this thing completely turned around metabolic syndrome, being metabolically unhealthy. So that's why when people go on this, all of a sudden, like, their energy goes through the roof. Well, guess what? The mitochondria, which are really the engines of the cells, when they're functioning properly, you don't need stimulants. You'll have energy. You'll feel fantastic, et cetera. And if you go to our website, r2mprotocol.com, r2mprotocol.com, you'll see the results of the peer-reviewed studies. You'll see the peer-reviewed studies. And there's an interview with Dr. Paul Arciero, arguably the world's greatest nutritional researcher for almost 40 years. I don't want you to believe Peter Greenlaw. Peter Greenlaw is not the expert. And my job with the New Health Conversation is to bring you this kind of information, not to scare you, maybe to wake you up, but more importantly, there's something you could do. Don't just ignore this, because being overweight now has way more implications from a disease spot. Plus, when insulin goes up, inflammation goes up. All these other things start triggering this. And when you got major doctors like Dr. Lustig, he's really, really concerned about this, as I am, and now lots of other researchers. I've seen just in the last couple of weeks, probably 3 or 4 different reports. One said 100 million Americans were had non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That was the National Federation of Liver. I think it's their association. But now they're saying 45% of 330 million. That's more than 100 million. I mean, I hope that this will help you. I hope you'll go there. And again, we're not making any medical claims. All we're saying is this is what the research said. If you think it's a good idea to lower your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your cholesterol, and your triglycerides and inflammation, then maybe you want to take a look at this. There's no guarantees. We're not going to guarantee that happens. We don't know. But don't you owe it to yourself to at least explore, at least investigate? Do you have fatty liver disease? Do you not have it? Are you struggling to lose weight only to lose it and gain it all back again? Are you insulin resistant? Do you know if you even are insulin? That's the gateway to type 2 diabetes. And now we know it's caused by the liver. But also what the liver is doing, it's inbounding all these pesticides, herbicides, et cetera, and it's filling up with fat until it can't handle it anymore, and then it farms it out. And now we're storing these chemicals in what's called our visceral fat. That's the hard fat around all of our organs. So my greatest wish is that this will be of great help to you. That's why we started the New Health Conversation, and we're going to continue because we really, really need one. So I hope this is helpful. Go to r2mprotocol.com, and there's a little form at the bottom. If you want us, we will contact you personally to go over whatever your needs are. Maybe it is losing weight, but losing weight can have a major impact also on fatty liver disease. So goodbye.